Hey, what's up guys? Austin back again, back with another Longplay video. This time, this is Ninja Gaiden 2 for the 8-bit Nintendo, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. Now, several months back, I did a long play of the first Ninja Gaiden. I ended up beating that without dying. Unfortunately, my run here in Ninja Gaiden 2 wasn't quite as good. I do die a few times. Really stupid mistakes for the most part, however. It's, Ninja Gaiden 2 isn't, it is and it isn't as tough as the first Ninja Gaiden. There's a few differences that I'll explain once I actually get into the gameplay. But there are some new additions like the shadow characters behind you and some more efficient ninja spirit magic powers you have, whatever you call them. I don't even know what they're called. Basically, your secondary special weapons you pick up throughout the game, they're a lot more efficient in this game, so you can take even better advantage of them than you could in the first game. And they were still pretty badass in the first game, but they were even better in this one. And then even better in part 3, which I'd like to eventually do. I can also beat that one without continuing, so you will eventually see a long play of Ninja Gaiden 3 on my channel. Yeah, this is the intro story to Ninja Gaiden 2. It's, you know, it took a cue from the first game and it just continued the whole cinematic thing. And back when this game came out, this was, the graphics were just so much better than the first Ninja Gaiden. They were a lot cleaner overall. And Tecmo, they made better use of the colors. There was, I guess, it looks like there are more colors in this game, but there probably aren't. They were just probably put to better use. And the art was just drawn a lot cleaner. Like there, you can see Ashtar's face. He's very clean, very cartoon-like, or about as cartoon-like as you can get on an 8-bit Nintendo. So it's very cool, very well done. As far as the story itself, I'm not going to say it's great or anything. I think it gets the job done, or at least it got the job done 21 years ago when this game came out. But it doesn't really hold up very well today. I think the story in the first Ninja Gaiden is still the best and still the most timeless. Ninja Gaiden 2, it gets old, it gets repetitive, and there's a bit of cheese factor in there. Not so much in the first Ninja Gaiden story, where it was kind of just dark and creepy for the most part. But the story in Ninja Gaiden 2 is a bit cliched. But you know, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to just talk about me playing the game. But as you guys know, as you guys at least that have watched my long plays before, you know, I also like to just talk about the game in general, you know, my opinions and my memories with the game and all that good stuff, and we get about 50 minutes to do all that, so we'll get back to some of that a little bit later. So, here you go, Ninja Gaiden 2, you can already tell that if you've played the first game, the graphics are already so much smoother in Ninja Gaiden 2, and even just that background city with the lights and stuff, it really stands out. It's very well done. But I'm already towards the end of the stage. I was just kind of talking about the game so much, but you can see I've got my shadows behind me, and I put them to really good use right here at this boss, and I'll show you how. Just try to position them all together, and then use your fire art, and that boss's life will drain really quickly. Just watch for him. After a few seconds, he'll charge after you like that. So you can just jump on the wall, climb up a little bit, and yeah. Now, I try to do that with most bosses in this game. I try to gang up on the bosses with my shadows that are trailing behind me. For you guys that haven't noticed yet, the shadows, they basically mimic your moves, although I think there's a slight delay when they do. Maybe not. Maybe just like a super tiny delay. Yeah, they pretty much mimic every move you do, so if you move right and then move left, the shadows will also move right and move left, but on a delay. They don't do it instantaneous with you. So, it's pretty cool, and you can put them to great use. I really wish they kept the shadows in Ninja Gaiden 3, but they decided it was a better idea to take them out. I'm not sure why. It was a great addition, in my opinion, but they might have felt that it made the game too easy. Now, like I was, well, Ninja Gaiden 2, it's difficult, and but it's not as difficult as the first one, in my opinion. But there are a few things that work against you in this one, whereas in Ninja Gaiden Part 1, they don't. For instance, you can't, sorry. In the first Ninja Gaiden, you could, just run across the ground, and if there's just a standing enemy on the ground, you could literally just run, jump and swipe, and like the corner of your hitbox would still hit the enemy and he would still die. So it would let you continue to just run and jump and swipe through enemies without having to stop and go like I do in this one. The hitboxes are a lot better in this game, so you can't really do that. You can do it once in a blue moon, but for the most part you're just going to get lucky when you do that. And I wish I could explain it to you better, but I can't. For you guys that have played the first Ninja Gaiden, or for you guys that have seen my first Ninja Gaiden Longplay, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you notice here, it's kind of stop and go for me, very, very stop and go, and that's how Ninja Gaiden 2 is, because it doesn't have the forgiving or really unforgiving hitboxes. It can be unforgiving if you got a ton of enemies on the screen and you're on stage 6 in the first Ninja Gaiden. But for the most part, that really worked towards your advantage if you want to just really speed run through the game, which is what I kind of like to do. I mean, I like to speed run, but not like super competitively or anything like that. I just like to be able to blaze right through the game at my own convenience. And the Ninja Gaiden series has been the one series where I've been able to do that the best and have the most fun doing it. So I don't do anything crazy here. I just like to run through the game as quick as I can, and without having to stop and go. And Ninja Gaiden 1 is by far the best for that. Ninja Gaiden 2 is fun because you got the shadows, and it really works well with that too. As you can see, I'm using my fire art a lot, or my specials a lot, because you really clear a lot of screen space, or you cover a lot of screen space when you have your shadows behind you. When I use my fire art, it literally takes up like 2/3 of the screen, and basically anything on the screen is doomed to die, and it's really great. One other nice addition in Ninja Gaiden 2 is that you can actually climb up walls outside of being on ladders and so forth. And like you can see here, I'm just climbing up the wall. It's very easy, and I've actually ran out of my fire art, so what I'm doing is that I'm attacking with my shadows and not myself. I get my character lined up with the boss, but then I actually position the shadows at my own will, and that makes it very convenient. I can have the shadows just positioned up by the boss attacking while I'm just chilling on the ground, sort of avoiding whatever he's throwing out. So the shadows are really, really, really good in this game. Really good in this game. So, and it actually really hurts when you die and you lose them, because then it becomes a little difficult again. So what I'm basically doing is just letting all the story elements play, because for you guys that haven't played this game, or for you guys that haven't really completed this game, and you want to see how the story pans out, you know, just watch this video and you can watch the whole story from beginning to end. You watch the whole game from beginning to end. But Ninja Gaiden 2, it has a lot of story. I mean, the first one had a lot of story too, but it seems like in this one they give you story after you beat a boss, and then they give you the act symbol. It's like, okay, act 3, and at that point you would expect to be thrown right into the game, but no, they'll toss you more story. I don't remember if they did it exactly like that in the first one, or if the story was quite as often. I'm pretty sure it was. It's just I've played Ninja Gaiden Part 1 so much that I just skip through the story all the time. Actually, the first time I watched the story in that game in a very, very long time was for that long play. So I don't even remember how often the story pops up now in that game. Now this level's kind of tricky, and as you notice, it's black for the most part, and when there's lightning outside, the screen lights up for just a quick second. This is a very cool stage, and you know what's actually kind of interesting is in the Ninja Gaiden trilogy for the Super Nintendo, where it has Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3, this stage actually didn't have any lightning on it at all, and it wasn't dark. It was completely bright. Kind of ruined the whole feeling of the stage, because it's kind of a creepy level too. The music that plays in the background goes very well. It's very cool. And if you get to know the level, though, you can just jump from platform to platform without really needing the lightning to come out. So if you can memorize it a little bit, you can blaze through it a little bit faster than you could before. Now that little bazooka guy that was at that last screen there, he can be a pain in the ass, so the second you jump across that, well, jump, just immediately go after him or jump, because you don't want to get hit by his bullet. The second you get hit by his bullet, it's going to fling you off the side. I noticed that when you get hit in this game, I think you actually get propelled back farther than you do in the first Ninja Gaiden. So, getting hit is, well, especially on this stage where it's basically endless pit after endless pit, it's definitely not good for you. There's another one right there. And those guys respawned after I killed them. This game does have the respawn-itis like Ninja Gaiden 1 does, but it's not nearly as bad. A lot of enemies you'll kill won't respawn, or they won't respawn nearly as quickly. Not counting this part right here. But, it's not nearly as bad as it is in the first Ninja Gaiden. In the first Ninja Gaiden, it's pretty bad. Now here I'm using my shadows again, and I think I get hit once by this boss because I don't get too close to me. But you can kind of see the concept. I got the shadows positioned at the top while I'm attacking at the bottom, and the dude just gets hit as he goes up. Now I think you can only hit him, you can only hurt him when he's in the air. I don't think you can hurt him when he's on the ground. He's one of those bosses where he's in the air, you attack him, you hurt him, he falls, you can't do any damage. You can only do damage as he's flying back up. So, if you've never played this before, then watch out for that. So this is basically the first villain in Ninja Gaiden 2. This is Ashtar, I believe, and he's basically kind of the decoy in the game, as you'll find out later. There's actually another familiar last boss and evil dude that you have to beat. But Ashtar he's the main villain for now in this game, for those that are actually curious about the story. And you actually fight him about halfway through the game, which I'm actually going to be doing relatively soon. I've got I think one more stage to go through. It's the fire area and then the water area, and then I should be going to the ice area, which is where Ashtar is. And the ice area is actually, I think, where I die. I think it's where I die first. Usually when I die in this game, it's at the fire area, the next stage, and yeah. Usually it's at the fire area, so. Actually, no, the first area I die is in the spikes area. This is sort of what I call the fire area. I know it's called like the Maze of Darkness or something like that, but if you notice, there's always these flames in the background, so that's just, yeah. Comes up in my mind as being the fire area. So, but there's also a waterfall area you'll go to soon. But before that, there's a spikes maze or spike maze or something like that. Or spike area, lots of big-ass spikes everywhere you don't want to touch, and I actually die there. So, you'll actually see that soon. That's actually where I die first, and then I die again at the ice area. Really, really stupid deaths, by the way, so. The spike area, not so much a stupid death, because I'm just, yeah. You'll see what I mean. I actually have to try to dodge enemies for a while to not get hit, but this part right here can be a little tricky, so sometimes what I do is I jump down and I position myself, and I jump on the, I hold on to the side there. It's best to have the spinning fire wheel that spins around you. It basically makes you invincible for the most part for a few seconds, and that's what I was trying to keep, but I accidentally picked up a different ninja art, unfortunately, which makes it a little more difficult. Now here's that water level I was talking about. It's constant like little streams of water and waterfalls. And if you hold on to those the waterfalls, you'll actually continually go down. And if you're standing on top of them, they'll continually be pushing you left or right. Now this was really cool because I don't think Ninja Gaiden Part 1 had anything like that. It was all just flat ground. Ninja Gaiden 2 introduced the you know, the alternating currents and stuff like that. Pretty cool. Now this part right here, if you want a little shortcut, wait for one of these guys to come up, jump at the right time, and he'll hit you up to the next platform, so you can let you really blaze through that section of the game. Likewise right here, there's an extra life. Normally you'd have to go around and go through that. It's actually a pretty tough jump right there, and then you'd have to dodge the enemy when you jump back to that platform. But again, you can just jump up right, let him hit you, and he'll actually push you up to that platform. Now that little fucker I try to bait, but it doesn't really work too well. So having the shot, that which I actually ironically have now, which lets you shoot down, is very good for that part because you can attack that little dude. You definitely don't want to jump down by yourself because he'll probably jump towards you and knock you off the edge, which will make you die. But here's the boss. And as usual, just try to line up your shadows so you can get multiple hits with one go. And he's a very simple boss. His arms just come from the left and right hand side of the screen. It's actually kind of cheesy by today's standards. It's very, very, very simple. If you stand on the left or the right waterfalls, I believe when his arms come out, they'll actually hit you, so you don't want to actually camp up there. Alright, probably gonna go to more story. Oh no, I was wrong. This is where the spike area comes up, and you actually go just for a little bit here, and then you go down into the spike area. And that is where I actually I die for my first time. Now one other thing I forgot to mention is that in Ninja Gaiden 2 it also introduced you being able to use your ninja arts while on the wall. In Ninja Gaiden Part 1, if you're on the wall you were pretty much stuck, you couldn't attack in any way. Well, the only way you could attack is by jumping off the wall real quick, swiping with your sword, and then trying to aim yourself back to the wall. And I ran out of my ninja arts here. I don't have any special abilities left, so the parts that would have been a little bit easier are needlessly more difficult because I just didn't have any of my ninja arts. Now there was actually a scroll floating above that flame right there, and there's an extra life right there I just got as I was falling down those two walls of spikes. Kind of tough to hit that extra life. It's just floating in the midair as you go down, but time it right and you can get it. Even though I die here, it doesn't really matter all that much because if you notice, I'm already up to 9 lives, and I think again, I think 9 is your maximum. And I just died right there. So now I have no, well, now I have one shadow guy. When you die, you lose both your shadow guys and you lose whatever ninja art you had. But fortunately in this game, you get to start off with your basic shurikens by default. Whereas in the first Ninja Gaiden, you got the shurikens. You had to pick up the shurikens. In this one, the shurikens you have by default, which is pretty cool. It was a great idea by Tecmo to do that. Makes some parts a little bit easier. Alright, now this is the ice place. The ice place is kind of cool because, like, again, unlike the first Ninja Gaiden, there's a bit of momentum when you're walking on the ice. It's slippery, so if you walk too hard, you'll slip, and you'll notice me kind of just like sliding back and forth here and there. I was just trying to hit that bat, and I just kept sliding and sliding and sliding. It's pretty cool. It can be a little tricky if you're not used to it, but when you try to make jumps in this game, just try to jump at the very edge of the platform and just try to time the momentum so you can be as accurate with your jumps as you can. Later on in the stage, there's some jumps where you have to be really accurate. Right now, the jumps so far have just been really small jumps, but a few screens up, the jumps will be larger. And just grab that health potion. Getting the health potions is really important if you want to keep your game going, surviving. I think here is actually where I die. For my second time, I do something really stupid. I think I get hit by this guy that pops up. Oh, I don't even get hit by him. I slide off the ice because I didn't jump properly. That was really bad. But that, you know, that's actually one of the points in the game where I remember dying frequently, either by mistiming my jump or by getting hit by that guy, that ninja that pops up. Here's the spinning fire wheel. Like again, I said, is very useful in this game. Fortunately, you can actually use it at your own disposal in this game. The first Ninja Gaiden, when you got the spinning fire wheel, oh, I just lost it. When you get the spinning fire wheel, you get it for about 5 seconds, and then it's gone. It disappears. You can't use it again. You have to only get them in very specific portions of the game. So in this one, you can actually use it at command, so long as you don't pick up another art. Now, it's not good for bosses, but it's great for very specific sections in the game. I don't think you'll ever get to a point where you have it equipped at a boss, because there are usually better weapons just usually strewn right before the bosses for you, either the ninja stars or the fire wheel, or the toss. I don't even know the proper name for it. The fire art, where you just toss it up into the air. So that's actually probably one of the best ones in the game. That one, and the fire art that shoots down, because you can aim them at angles. For instance, the fire art that shoots at a downwards 45-degree angle, you can actually hang on the walls and use it. So you can actually be at a boss, hang on the wall, and kind of be safe from the boss and still hit him with that. So very useful. Same with the upwards 45-degree angle fire art. Very useful. Now, to be honest, the story gets a little... It drags on a little bit in this one, in my opinion. Like in the first Ninja Gaiden, I thought it was paced pretty well. This one, it's a constant, I guess, I don't know, mouse chase between you and this Ashtar guy for the first portion of the game, and then after that point, you're basically at the end of the game. You're just trying to get to this last area, and it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't hold up very well, in my opinion. But that's just me. I mean, it's still great that it's there because it's Ninja Gaiden. It was really something back when it came out. It was very cool. I remember being a kid, this was just awesome. And there weren't really too many other console games prior to the Ninja Gaiden games that actually did that. And ironically, once Ninja Gaiden did it, a bunch of other games tried copying it as well. Which is what happens in, well, just about everything, video games and not. You know, once something comes out, people take the idea, they try to modify it, or they at least try to duplicate it to where it gets the job done. And a lot of games like Astion X, it didn't get the job done. It was pretty bad. They would have been better off just not having a story, or maybe having a story through, I don't know, maybe not having a story. But Ninja Gaiden did it pretty well. Now, the actual story itself, I don't think holds up very well in Part 2. Likewise with Part 3, it has a very convoluted story, but there's more of a conspiracy story going on in Part 3, a little more like Part 1, which is kind of cool. I thought the whole conspiracy thing in Part 1 was interesting, along with the mythological elements like the demon statues and so forth. But I like how they introduced the CIA, and they're basically crooked or corrupt in the end. You know, they want to kill you after you accomplish their mission, just, you know, so word doesn't leak out. It's interesting. There's not really any of that in this one. It's kind of a, you know, the game ends happy. Well, I mean, it ends happy in the first one too, but there isn't a twist like there is in the first one. Nothing like that. It's basically, it's kind of mundane in my opinion, the story in part 2, and it just drags on for a while. So. But, I mean, I guess it still gets the job done for the time. I mean, this is 21 years old. This is far from modern stuff here. This is very, very old. But it was pretty groundbreaking at the time, even after Part 1 already did it. They basically improved on the execution in some regards. For instance, later on in the game, like Robert's, like he's shooting at some monsters and stuff like that. It's cool. It gets the job done, but. Again, the story itself, nothing to write home about. And I don't ever actually watch the story in this game except for the endings, maybe the intro occasionally. I just like to blaze through the game, and you can actually beat this game in about 10 or 15 minutes if you just skip through all the story. Which is what I'm used to doing. I'm used to just blazing right through the game. So, for you guys that don't want to watch the story, just know that you can skip through it if you actually play the game. You're not forced by any means to watch the story, except for the ending. But even the ending, technically, you're not forced to watch it because you can just turn off the system after you beat it. So, almost towards the end of the game, guys, and actually, I think I died, not here, but I died at the next area. You go outside, you're in this sort of like desolate desert-like area, sort of. And I'm pretty sure I died at the boss on that one, but I don't die actually at the level. Now here's the signature Ninja Gaiden scene where you're standing outside the palace that you're trying to go to and trying to destroy. Even Part 3 has scenes like these. It's a signature trait of the series. The very first Ninja Gaiden had it, and it was actually kind of epic back in the day because you hadn't really seen art like that on the 8-bit Nintendo. It was just very well done. It was full screen. It was cool. And then it basically just became the trait of the series, the most well-known trait of the series. Now here is the Jakio, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's spelled definitely kind of weird. He is he was the bad guy from the first game, and he was the final boss in the first game. Now he's back in this one, apparently resurrected somehow. And he's definitely a good bit trickier in this one, but I'll show you how to get through him with ease. I don't think I die at him when I get to him. Just like the first Ninja Gaiden, he's a 3-form last boss. Whereas in the first Ninja Gaiden, you had to fight the Masked Demon, then Jakio, and then I guess the Ultimate Demon, whatever you want to call him, the Demon Statue guy. So I think I actually die at this boss. Let's see if I do. Actually, I don't. This was actually not the first time I tried recording this long play. This was actually my second playthrough. In the first playthrough I did, I actually died at him. I got to the point where when I died at him, I was like, man, fuck this. I'm gonna start over. Because it was pretty embarrassing. He's not a very hard boss. He was in the first Ninja Gaiden. He is trickier in this one because he actually shoots like these... Well, he shoots projectiles basically, and he's harder to kill, or harder to dodge. You're more likely to get hit. But the shadow characters actually makes up for that a little bit. So, because you basically have 3 times the firepower. So basically more story. And then we'll be at the final palace in the game. Now this is actually divided up into multiple areas, but there's only one set of bosses, I believe. And it's 3 bosses. So if you notice, guys, I haven't really been talking a whole lot about just overall tricks and stuff. Really, all you want to do in this game is just focus on the stop and go gameplay. Don't try to rush into any situation too badly, because there are a lot of platforms out, a lot of loose platforms that have endless pits to the left and right of them, and the slightest hit will knock you back pretty far in this game, as you probably already noticed so far. So just play very careful. Notice how when a bird comes out, I stop. Okay, I don't move, I don't try to jump it or avoid it. If you try to jump a bird, you're probably gonna get hit, so do not do it. It's basically a big no-no. Focus on your ninja arts that you have, and focus on your shadow characters that follow behind you. Remember that if you have, for instance, the upwards fire art that I have right now, you can cover most of the screen with them. And enemies that come behind you, you can try to have your shadow ninjas attack with their swords, but it's safest to just use your fire art, which will also clear any other enemies you see on the screen at once. Just like that. And I have the spinning fire wheel, and just like the first Ninja Gaiden, you kind of want to get a good feel for where some items are in this game. Some items will definitely make your trip a little bit easier. So don't try to get through a game just because you like having a specific item. Just use what is the most useful. Now, there are some items that are just definitely more useful in certain situations than others. For instance, the spinning fire wheel, the protective fire wheel, far more useful in certain situations than having the ninja star or something like that. In this game, it's all about staying protected as much as possible, because there are some tricky parts in the game that are going to be extremely tricky or even frustratingly difficult if you use the wrong weapon and if you basically just play stupidly, recklessly. So here we go. We've got the very last level in the game. What's interesting about this level, actually, which hasn't kicked in yet, I forgot, the story just keeps going and going and going, dragging on. Here we go. What's interesting about this level is that the music is constantly alternating. Now, when you, if you die, the music will restart, usually a different tune. It's basically randomized, like a randomized MP3 player. It's kind of cool. I don't know if I've ever played another NES game that did that same thing. And definitely lets Ninja Gaiden 2 continue to stand out from the crowd, as it does things quite a bit differently than some other games. Now, this level is very tricky, but again, just take your time. Those little weird floating dudes that just spit projectiles, you want to just take your time. Just like the machine gun guys or the bazooka guys later on in the game, they shoot at a pattern. So it's 1, 2, 3. Just wait for a bullet to pass you, then jump and attack the guy before another one pops out. Much like the first Ninja Gaiden, it's very simple timing. As long as you can kind of just play to a rhythm, then this game really shouldn't be too much trouble for you once you actually learn the levels a little bit. It's naturally going to be trouble at first if you've never played the game before. Extra life right there. Back up to 9 lives. It's going to be trouble for you at first, especially when a lot of birds like this pop out, but just use your ninja arts. It's going to be trouble for you at first because there's just so much stuff coming out, and that's always been a Ninja Gaiden trait, or at least the first Ninja Gaiden, not so much the newer ones. The newer Ninja Gaidens on like Xbox and PS3 are much more difficult in completely different ways, because they're completely different games. They're not like the original Ninja Gaidens. Once you get a handle on the game, though, and you start remembering where some enemies are, and you start recognizing some enemy patterns and so forth, the game will become much easier. And then once you incorporate using the ninja arts properly and using your shadow characters behind you, you should be able to breeze through this game without a problem at all. Now here is Jaquio, or Jaquio, or Jaquio, or Jaquio. I don't know how to pronounce it, like I said, but it's probably some like Spanish name, and I'm terrible at Spanish, so I have no idea how to pronounce it properly. I still feel kind of stupid for taking German in high school instead of Spanish, but that's a completely different topic for another day. And he has a similar pattern to his Ninja Gaiden pattern. He basically just floats across the room, shoots sort of homing fireballs at you, but they're not nearly as homing or they don't home nearly as much as they do in the first Ninja Gaiden, unfortunately, because they were kind of a pain in the ass in that game. But in this game, he flies all over the place. He's not just relegated to the top of the screen where he just goes left and right in kind of a cheesy manner. So you've got to really be careful in this one. You got to be constantly moving and jumping over his projectiles. And it definitely helps a lot if you have a ninja art that can just cover a lot of space. And just like any other bosses in the game, though, to make this the most easy, or the easiest, I'm at the point now where I start talking incorrectly. To make him the easiest, you try to line up your ninja spirit shadow guys behind you. So even though you might not be able to hit him, he might cross paths with another shadow that can hit him. So this battle consists of you just constantly watching out for opportunities to hit him in just about any way possible with both your own sword, your shadow swords, and your ninja arts. And you'll see exactly what I mean once this story just kind of stops dragging on and we actually get into the gameplay. Alright, here we go. Finally at the boss, the story element's gone. So I think I get hit quite a bit at this boss, but I've still managed to beat him without dying. And I don't remember what happens after you beat him. I think your life bar refills. I could be wrong. Actually, I'm probably very wrong. So, I don't remember. We'll find out after I beat him. I know in some Ninja Gaiden games your life bar refills. Actually, I think that's the first one. I don't think that's the case in this one. But I'm just trying to dodge, get away from the fireballs because they kind of track you. He aims at you, so just constantly move and they'll just trail behind you. And he was just kind of all over the place, as you were noticing. I was using my ninja arts in the very beginning. Once I ran out of that, I tried attacking him with my normal character, but I also tried lining them up with the shadow characters that were behind me. So give it a couple more minutes and then we'll be at the second form of the final boss. And then after that, there's a special surprise for you guys that have played the first Ninja Gaiden and beaten it, but maybe have not played part 2. So for you guys the few of you guys that are watching this that might fall into that category, I'm not going to spoil it quite yet. So. Alright guys, here we go. Second form in the last boss. This is going to be kind of tricky if you never gotten to him before. And apparently my life does not regenerate once I get to him. In part 1 your life regenerates fully at least when you go to the second form, but it does not happen in this game. So he's got these dripping things coming from the ceiling, and he also shoots out these balls pretty much on rhythm. It's every like second and a half or every 2 seconds or something he shoots them out. And the drips are constantly going down the screen, so you got to constantly move back and forth and predict when the projectiles are coming out as well. And it's a little tricky, but again, you can try to use your shadow characters to your advantage, and you know, jump, swipe the guy, and then as you're constantly moving back, left, dodging, continue to swipe so your shadow guys also hit the boss. The head is the only part that takes damage, so that's where you've got to attack. Now this is the last little story segment until we beat the game. This is going to be the final boss. Oh, nope, your life doesn't disappear. So for you guys that have maybe beaten the first Ninja Gaiden but not part 2, this is basically a recreation of the final boss in the first Ninja Gaiden. And he's not quite as tricky. Well, actually he is tricky, I guess. No, not really. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I'm getting kind of tired. He's very similar, however. He's got these hands that pop out, so you've got to watch out for the hands. And then he also has this long scream that he attacks with from his mouth. Now, none of that is in the first Ninja Gaiden, so if you've never played this before, that can be a little bit surprising. So just play carefully. You need to go for his head, and once you destroy his head, the you know, the arms will disappear and all that good stuff. And you got to go for his heart, just like in the first Ninja Gaiden. The projectiles that come out from the top of him can be a little randomized in this one though, so you're more likely to get hit. So always watch for the projectiles coming out top. And you don't want to die at that last boss if you can help it, because you'll get sent all the way back to the very beginning of that final stage. And the final stage is by far, I think, the most difficult level in the game. So, or it's the most difficult level for many people, I think. So you don't want to die at the last boss if you can help it, because especially when you're not too familiar with the game, it can probably be a little frustrating just getting to that point, and then when you die, you get sent all the way back. Not quite as bad as it is in the first Ninja Gaiden, where you actually get sent back all the way to the very beginning of the final chapter, which is like 3 different types of stages, and that's really frustrating. But you do get sent all the way to the very beginning of that final last level stage, you know, the one with the alternating music and kind of like the greenish morphing background. So but that is that, guys. That is Ninja Gaiden 2. That's the very end of the game. And I'm just going to go ahead and let the story roll out. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more. But this has been, I hope this video has been helpful or entertaining or educational or a little bit of everything. Or if you sat all the way through the end of the game, post a comment below. Let me know that you did. I'm always curious to hear if you guys sat through these long plays, and curious to hear who did. I notice I've got some people that some consistent viewers of these long plays, and just to let you know, I do have a few more of these cooked up. I have one for Twin Cobra ready to go. I'm trying to beat Double Dragon on the NES without dying. I'll eventually be doing a Ninja Gaiden 3 long play, and yeah, I've got a whole lot of ideas for future long plays as well, including some Sega Genesis games, some more Castlevania games, lots of good stuff to watch out for if you like my long plays. So, alright, pretty much wrapping things up. We got about 5 minutes left I'm gonna go ahead and just let the credits roll out. So, yeah, Ninja Gaiden 2. You know, let me take a moment to actually reminisce about this game a little bit, because this is one of those games I actually played quite a lot as a kid, and I loved the first Ninja Gaiden, but these games came out when I was very young. The first Ninja Gaiden came out when I was about 7 years old. The second one came out when I was about 8 years old. So I was very young when I first played these games. However, I think I was the only one in my neighborhood that was able to beat them. And most of my friends in my neighborhood were older than me back then. Like, I would go down to my neighbor's house. They were probably, oh, I don't know, 4 to 5, maybe 6 years younger or older than me. They were a good bit older, and some of their friends were even older. And none of them could really beat this game. I know they were able to get far into it, but only I was able to beat the game. And they would invite me down, and I would play, and they would all just watch. They were probably even doing drugs and shit like that when I was young. I remember it was a little shady, but they were my neighbors, and I thought they were good friends. And I was just kind of an ignorant kid, and I got to play Nintendo because they, you know, they wanted me to, so I did, and I loved playing Nintendo back then. You guys have no idea how much I loved playing Nintendo back then. I was, my dad would ban me from playing Nintendo and would technically ground me, and I'd still sneak out and make my way to friends' house just to play video games on their Nintendos. And then I'd come home, and the wooden spoon would be ready, and I'd run around the house as my dad or my mom would chase me because I went against their word, all to play freaking video games. And that was a good portion of my very young years. But yeah, like I was saying, at these guys' houses, or at blah blah blah, can't even talk straight. At my friends' houses down the street, they would have me over. I would play games, and Ninja Gaiden, the Ninja Gaiden series, at least parts 1 and 2, were games that I played a lot down there. And I remember one time there was like a massive snowstorm or something, and I stayed over at their house one night. And that was the very first time I beat Ninja Gaiden 2. I was able to finish it down there, and everyone was like cheering, like they never thought they'd ever see the very end of Ninja Gaiden 2, and I was able to do it. And I was only like 8 years old. Maybe I was 9 by that time. 1990. I was, yeah, 8 years old. It might not have been until the next year after it might not have been until the game was a year old before I actually beat it. So I might have been 9 years old. But still, I think even that in itself will impress a lot of people even today, because I still know grown adults that can't beat Super Mario Brothers, the very first one. And that's really amazing to me, because I beat that game in kindergarten. That was my first Nintendo game when I got my 8-bit Nintendo, and I beat Super Mario Brothers. I remember calling my dad at work. My mom called my dad and told her I beat the game, and they thought it was pretty crazy, and everyone thought it was crazy. I was really young when I beat my first video game, and that just continued. As I got a little bit older, you know, 8 and 9, I was able to beat games like Ninja Gaiden. You know, I think I even beat Ninja Gaiden 2 before I ever beat Ninja Gaiden Part 1. I remember getting quite far in the first Ninja Gaiden, but Part 2 was the first one I was able to complete on my own. So, yeah, I mean, Ninja Gaiden 2 was great. I loved this game when I was young. I still love it today. It's a great game. I know you heard me bitching earlier on in the video about how I don't think the story holds up well. And I don't think it does. I don't think it holds up very well at all. But that's not to say this game is bad by any means. This is a phenomenal game. This is really a must-have Nintendo game if you ask me. I mean, who plays really games for the stories anyways, at least this generation of games? Not really any game is really worth playing for the story from this time era, not even some like the awesome RPGs in the system, you know? I like the story in the first Ninja Gaiden, but that's about to the extent that I like the story in some of these games. And yeah, I mean, Ninja Gaiden 2 is just an awesome game. It improved on Ninja Gaiden Part 1 in about every way that you possibly could back then. I wish there were still the forgiving hitboxes so you can actually blaze through the game faster than you already can. But in reality, it improved a lot of things. For instance, the first Ninja Gaiden, you had to manually hop your way up walls, which could be very difficult. In Ninja Gaiden 2, you can just hold up or down and walk up and down walls very easily. You had the shadow guys, which helped tremendously, and you had the improved ninja arts. You even had an improved soundtrack, or sound. They had an improved sound system in this game. The sound definitely is, it's more bass heavy, it's thicker. I guess you could say it sounds a little more compressed, but not quite like that. It's good. The graphics, they look more colorful, even though they probably aren't. It's just everything was done better than the first game. Now, whether you like this one or the first game more is another story altogether, and I think I'm still going to have to go with Part 1 as being my absolute favorite of the series, but Ninja Gaiden 2 that did everything better, except for maybe, I don't know, the edge of the story. The story's edge doesn't seem as great as it was in the first one. So that's really my only current gripe with this game is the lackluster story that just doesn't really hold up well today. So, but with that, guys, I've just kind of ranted on for a while, and we've already hit the 50-minute mark. We're getting close to the hour mark now. So let me go ahead and just cut this off. I'm going to say thanks for watching. For any of you guys new to my channel, feel free to subscribe. I do kind of casual reviews and overviews. I do full-on in-depth reviews and overviews, and I do these long plays. Those are basically the 3 different kinds of videos that I like to do. So if you like that sort of thing, be sure to subscribe. You can also find me over at blip.tv and gametrailers.com for some of my more serious stuff, and you can just search for gameplay and talk. That's my channel names over there. And for you guys that are already subscribed to my channel, thanks for watching again. Post a comment below saying that you made it all the way through this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back with another long play and other videos shortly. So until then, guys, take care, take it easy, have a good one.